the concept of decent work was absent in the statement. And for us, that should be a cause for concern. Because decent work is an instrument to distribute income. Because once you give decent work to workers, what you then do, you give them UIF, you give them medical aid, you give them retirement, you give them a good wages. What it means that they can divert that money into human development. They can divert that money into income generation activities. They can divert that money into accumulating assets. So if you're not, as a state, with such history as well, and structural unemployment, poverty, and inequality, you don't demonstrate the backbone around decent work, that's really problematic. I think the issue as well is around rural development. I think Misha probably spotted it. I mean, it was given near 1.9 billion with 400 million to support small scale farmers.
Landscape.
Yes. Now the issue, and you don't see again the demonstration and the political commitment around land reform, because access to land is an asset. So when you give the majority of citizens access to land, what you're really saying is that you are going to be slowly shifting the power balance, the economic power balance and power relations. So if you actually shrink control over land, is that you let the minority have control over land. And one of the key things that the government fails to understand around its delay on rural development is that rural development is not only contributing fundamentally around food security, but it grants an opportunity to build industrial capital. What it means that some of the supply of labor that urban communities are sitting with could be shifting back and be absorbed back into those communities, and so that you can actually stimulate productive activities in those areas. I think there was a clear protection around private sector. The high income or the senior packs, the packs that are received by senior executives in the private sector, there was complete silence around that area, because it perpetuates some of a disproportion in terms of growth that we currently see that is not sustainable. And there are some, the fact that our economy entirely relies on consumption in terms of growth, it's not relying on anything. And it's these senior executives that are getting huge packages that perpetuate that. There was huge silence around the role of state-owned enterprise in development. And all of them continue to receive subsidies from the state, SAA, Transnet, and everyone else. And no, the state, actually, during budget and state of the nation, the state has an opportunity to actually begin to actually chart the way and say, this is what we expect of you. And currently, they've not been bold enough to say, this is what we expect of the state-owned enterprise. And if you actually observe, the state-owned enterprises have been using capital productive means of production, meaning using machines instead of using individuals, and labor, intensive labor forms, because that's an area that you would expect parastatals to actually consider. I think my last two key issues, I think the issue, corruption is liability to poor citizens. And you once more saw silence in that area. There was only one paragraph around corruption. We still, all the DGs who bought World Cup tickets have got scot-free. No one has been bought before the book. To buy a ticket of 17,400 for 400 guests, that's a lot of money. And particularly if that's not within your scope. Lastly, two things. The one is the health reforms. We must be concerned about the shift on the health reforms in relation to the funding model, instead of questioning the equitability of health. And we must be stuck into the equitability concept, not in because the funding model should be the last part. How many people should have access to healthcare? How many kilometers should we be walking? Should we have access to a doctor? So we need to bring back that debate, because currently it's shifted, and the private sector has become such a biggest lobby group in this area, because they shifted this through, last year at the meeting, all medical aids at the conference last year, and private hospitals, and immediately all they asked was the funding model for national health insurance, and the debate shifted. So no one was asking the question around the capability. I think the last issue which the speech is silent on is access to development finance. Now, the issue about development finance is directly linked with competition policy. If you have Pick n Pay and ShopRite controlling and dominant in the consumption industry, and Woolworths and Edgar's. And if you grant development finance to citizens to actually produce the same things that Pick n Pay produces, what it means is that we are going to have reduced prices, all right? We are going to have vibrant competition. But when you don't give development finance, which is risk-oriented, which is venture-driven, now venture-driven, it's only government who can give venture-driven because it's public taxers' money. If it takes risk within its own taxpayers anyway. So government must take risk in that area. And it protects private sector by not giving development finance so that Pick n Pay and ShopRite and Woolworths should continue to have monopoly over the market, charge high prices and high profits.